It's a very colorful and bright place with a lot of different flowers and plants. The air is filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the atmosphere is very calming and peaceful. The walls are covered in colorful paintings of flowers and plants. Everyone doing their respective assigned works of arranging flowers. Her hands were working on the bouquet she is arranging while humming sweetly. She is using her creativity and skill to create a beautiful and artistic display that will be admired by everyone who sees it. She is taking her time to make sure that every flower is placed just right so that the display looks perfect. It's just an ordinary day of her. She spent most of the day at work by arranging flowers and helping customers to pick out the perfect bouquet. Her day just begins with her work and when it ends, she heads home and relaxes, enjoying her time off. She was humming while her hands were tangling with each other as she placed the flowers in the right way. Her attention shifts when her colleague, also her best friend, spoke from behind. As expected, Ryan, this is very well made. Her friend said, looking at the bouquet in Ryan's hand, which she just prepared. Ryan smiled at her before saying, "You did a great job as well," she said, pointing at the bouquet which was in her friend's hand. Aram, do you think Mr. Huang will appreciate me? Ryan smiled before speaking. Do you make this for him? Aram, yeah, his birthday is approaching, right? She said, taking off her apron. Anyways, I'm leaving. Mrs. Yoon requested me to help her in shifting. Ryan, yeah, she asked something for the first time. Aram nodded before giving a gentle hug to Ryan. Aram, I might be late. Leave home soon. Ryan nodded and watched Aram leave after waving at her. Ryan Pove. As my friend left, I began to continue my work of arranging the bouquet. I placed the last flower and smiled once I was done. Mine is ordinary life with a simple job, which I absolutely love. I'm 21 years old, 𝐤𝐤𝐿, a florist. I got many people who admire me and my work, but Aram is the special one because she was the only one I had when I was at my low. When I was 9, my mom and dad divorced. My custody was given to my dad. My dad became alcoholic after divorce. He didn't care about me at all. Later, he got married to a woman who became one of my biggest nightmares. She was very nice and kind in the start, but as days passed, she slowly started showing her true side, just how a snake venom works. She was drug and alcohol addict. She used to beat me for small inconvenience. She used to give me a very insufficient amount of food to eat. She treated me as a slave. I thought my dad would support me after he returned from business, but he joined hands with her and started to abuse me at the same level, just because I resembled my mom. I remind him of his ex-wife. After 3 years of abuse, I was abandoned. When I was crying alone in a corner, a lady approached me with her kid. I was very scared to even talk with her. Understanding me, she didn't question me much and took me to buy some bread. Once she makes sure I'm comfortable, she started asking me questions. She questioned me why I was in a corner of a street crying alone. I told her everything happened to me for the past 3 years. She was shocked to know. She gave me a tight hug and assured me she'll take care of me. I was not sure. I was having trust issues by the amount of trauma I got from a stepmom, but still I felt like trusting her. Obviously, every human is not the same. It was my best decision. The lady treated me like my mom, even my stepmom could never. I got comfortable with them in just a few days. She also had a daughter, Aram, who is my best friend, more like my sister. Aram and Aunt Shin were the only two in their family. Aram lost her father when she was 5. From that time, they both were together. Me and Aram grew up together for almost like 10 years, but when I was 20 and Aram was 19, unfortunately, Mrs. Shin left us by saying her last goodbyes. She passed a year ago, but me and Aram were depressed by her loss. She was suffered with cancer and finally left us when she couldn't take anymore. Then, as an elder, I began to search for a job, and fortunately, I got a job as a florist. I got paid fair enough to pay my bills. My life becomes so much better when I joined it here. I got new people and friends. Aram also joined it as a florist 6 months ago. Now we are good, living peaceful together. After all this abusing childhood trauma, I'm finally here. Life goes on. My thoughts interrupted when our boss approached me from behind. Mr. Huang, that's beautiful, Miss Ryan. He smiled, looking at the bouquet in my hand. Thank you, boss. Mr. Huang took the bouquet I made, admiring it. Mr. Huang, you did a great job. Why? After all, it's my duty. Mr. Huang nodded before placing the bucket gently aside. Mr. Huang, thank you for your hard work for today, Miss Che. Wyan nodded. Have a great time, Mr. Huang, I said while taking off my apron. I rested it on my left arm and bowed it to him. Wyan, yes, please stop here. I will go buy food. The taxi stopped just few meters away from my home. I got off the taxi along my bag. I made my way home after paying the taxi. My phone was in my hands while my bag was hanging on my right arm. I opened my phone just to see Aram test. Aram, I can't join you for dinner. I'll be late. Mrs. Yul insists to have dinner with her. I smiled at her test before testing back to her. It's fine. I guess I'll cook some ramen for myself. Have a great time with her. Aram saw the test and sent me a wink emoji as okay. Mrs. Yun was our neighbor, such a kind lady. She recently shifted home and asked Aram for help. Obviously, she can't say no, so she went to help her. Now they are having dinner together. I'm jealous. Aram gets to eat Mrs. Yun's delicious food. I chuckled, shaking my head, and began to walk. As I was moving forward, I felt something sus, like someone was behind me and following my steps. When I felt weird, I turned back to look, but there was no one. I frowned my eyebrows because I surely felt someone's presence, but that's when a cat came out of nowhere. I glanced at the cat and it meowed at me. I chuckled, shaking my head for panicking over nothing. End of Wine Pove. Meanwhile, a tall figure covered in black suit with sunglasses on stared at her from behind, hiding himself at the back of the car. He watched her as she got inside her apartment. His eyes followed her every step. He shifted his eyes when she was out of his vision. He took out a photo card from his coat pocket. It was a photo card where a girl was smiling brightly. Her hands were carrying some colorful flowers. Her hair was swinging messily. I found her, he mumbled, staring down at the photo card. A man spoke with a wine glass in his hand, crossed legs and dark aura. Total three bodyguards were standing behind him while he was sitting on the huge couch like a king. He is. The person who was sitting in front of him panicked. The man glanced at his wine glass before looking back at the person. Why should I keep your daughter instead of the debt you have to clear? Do you think I'm some kind of stupid? He spoke, looking at the person in front of him with raised eyebrow. The man panicked and spoke in a shuddering tone. No, Mrs. John, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I won't paint, but I need some time. Until then, you can keep my daughter in your service. Jungkook, do you think I'm running out of maids, Mr. Che? Mr. Che, Mrs. John, I didn't mean to disrespect you. I just need some time to collect this huge amount. Until then, my daughter will be with you, so I won't run away, he said, placing his daughter photo on the glass table. Jungkook left a dark chuckle, looking at the wine glass, and spoke before looking back at Mr. Che. Leave. Jungkook said without glancing at the photo. Mr. Che looked at him in confusion. Mr. Che, pardon? Jungkook, you heard me. Leave right now and return with a debt you have to pay in less than 2 weeks. Mr. Che, but Mr. Jeon cut off Jungkook. And yeah, next time don't offer me your stupid ideas instead of clearing the actual debt. Or you know better what will happen once I run out of patience. Jungkook spoke, glaring at Mr. Che with his usual dark eyes, which made Mr. Che gulp in panic. Mr. Che nodded without speaking further. Jungkook, now leave. He spoke, staring at the wine glass. Miss Che bowed in panic and left without saying anything. Jungkook watched Che leaving in panic while tilting his head. He looked at his guard through his shoulder and spoke. Jungkook, keep an eye on him. Guard, sure boss. Time skip. Jungkook was standing in the middle of the living room with his phone against his ear. He chuckled before speaking with the person. Don't worry, mom, I took pills. It's just a simple fever. Mrs. Jeon, this kid never takes my words seriously. This is how you take care of yourself? Jungkook, Mom, I'm really fine. Why are you over worried? Mrs. Jeon, you're being a workaholic like your dad. Stop working so much, and how many times I have told you to find a partner? You're 27 already. At least she will be there to look after you. Jungkook, oh yeah, I remember I have to do some work, mom. Mrs. Jeon, yeah right. Whenever I talk about marriage, you always had a work. Jungkook chuckled. I'm good, mom, don't worry. Mrs. Jeon, idiot, she said before hanging out the call from her side. He shook his head, rubbing his forehead knuckles with his fingers. He started resting himself on couch and kept his phone on the glass table. That's when his eyes fell on the photo placed there. He raised his eyebrow, but then he remembered about Mr. Che and about his daughter. He took out a cigarette and grabbed a lighter. He threw it on the couch before firing his cigarette. He exhaled the toxic smoke and leaned front to grab the photo. He stared down at the photo with an expressionless face, tilting his head slightly. It was a girl with a bunch of flowers in her hands. She was smiling brightly, like she is one of the happiest people alive. He turned the photo where her name was written. YN. He mumbled before turning the photo front and staring down at her again. What a beautiful smile you have. I would like to ruin it.